Everybody knows about Marvel's colorful superheroes and their iconic battles, but dig a little deeper into their history and you might find something even more interesting lurking in the shadows. Pun intended. Tower of Shadows might just be one of the greatest gifts Marvel ever gave comic book fans, and yet somehow it almost never gets talked about. First, let's set the scene. It's 1969 and Marvel is already shifting the winds of the comic book world with its flawed, deeply human heroes, but the world outside was shifting too. Readers were getting older and hungrier for something more edgy. On top of that, Marvel's biggest rival, DC Comics, was slaying with spooky anthologies like House of Mysteries and House of Secrets. Stan Lee and publisher Martin Goodman saw the gap and realized they had to move fast. That September, Tower of Shadows was born as a bi-monthly anthology series built entirely around horror and dark fantasy. Frankly, it felt like Marvel's love letter to the classic EC comics of the 1950s, the ones that gave us Tales from the Crypt and kept us up way past our bedtimes. The series usually framed its stories through eerie hosts like Digger and Headstone P. Gravely, but speaking of love letters, you really have to be careful with them, right? And that's why Stan Lee didn't just throw any random team at this book. He carefully assembled a lineup of artistic legends from the Silver Age, namely Jim Steranko, Neil Adams, John Buscema, and others. Personally, we were sold the moment we saw the covers. The intricate detailing and color choices told you right there you were in for a roller coaster ride, and Tower of Shadows didn't hold back on the weirdness. Some panels are downright bizarre, while others go even further. That's why today, we're diving into the 15 weirdest and scariest stories from this legendary run, the ones that truly turned up the creep factor.
A Time to Die, Issue 1. Penned by none other than Stan Lee, with artwork by John Buscema, A Time to Die tells the story of a man, Sebastian Scrogg, who wants to live forever, and his incompetent assistant, at least according to him, Arthur. Arthur's been working for Sebastian for a very long time, and all he has ever felt for his master is hate. Understandable, because all Sebastian does is pick on him, make him work endlessly, and remind him every day how he saved his life when he was an escaped felon. The story begins with Sebastian working on a serum for years that would grant him immortality. However, he fails once again and takes out his frustrations on Arthur, accusing him of wanting his master dead so that he could steal his money and scientific treasures. Early on, it's established that Sebastian is a scumbag who treats Arthur horribly, and honestly, you start rooting for this mute servant to kill him. But unlike our growing agitation, Arthur knows how to control himself and waits for the right moment. He tells himself, "It would be rather easy for you, Arthur. You know you must be patient," because he's gambling on that immortality as well. Finally, Sebastian discovers the answer to eternal life, the sap of a redwood tree, which can live for centuries, but just before he can drink it, Arthur strikes. Thinking he'll never have to take orders again, and that immortality will allow him to rule the world, Arthur drinks it himself. This is the moment you start questioning who you were rooting for. The thing is, A Time to Die sits in a gray area, and there is really nobody here who deserves any sympathy. The ending is where it gets truly grotesque. Arthur feels limitless life surging through his body after drinking the potion, and then it happens. His lower half transforms into the roots of a redwood tree, meaning he'll live as long as the tree, but as the tree itself, immobile and helpless. And the only person who had the antidote was Sebastian, and Arthur made sure he was dead. Whoops. At the Stroke of Midnight, Issue 1. This was the first ever story we got in the Tower of Shadows series, and it'll definitely make you think twice about inheriting some weird relative's fortune. This one follows the story of a couple, Marie and Lou, who arrive at a bleak, rocky castle that belonged to Lou's uncle. Agitated by the long drive, Marie insists they enter the Shadow House that very night, while Lou is clearly apprehensive, and honestly, we're on his side. No one in their right mind would want to enter a house filled with antiques and flickering lights that give off the eerie feeling that the walls are alive. There's a raven statue that would have made me run for my life. Tired and confused, Lou even forgets to turn on the lights, and Marie is clearly not happy to be inside what feels like a mausoleum without any electricity, so why is she still there? Turns out, the uncle had a fortune hidden somewhere in the house, and she knew he would leave everything to his favorite nephew, her husband. Poor Lou gives in and starts searching for the treasure, thinking the money could actually help them, but suddenly, he sees his murdered uncle moving inside a portrait. Marie shrugs it off, thinking Lou's guilty conscience is playing tricks on him, but soon they come across a room with a heavy oak door that's always locked. The greedy wife forces Lou to open it somehow, and she's proven right. all the jewelry and treasure is inside, and completely elated, Marie covers herself in it. But then, Lou realizes what he's done. He's opened a pathway to the past his uncle always warned about. Suddenly, they find themselves in the 18th century during the French Revolution, with people shouting for the king and queen. The final image shows a guillotine and Marie screaming. Yep, the names Marie and Lou Fowler make a lot more sense now, and honestly, it sends a shiver down our spines. Plus, here's a bonus fun fact. At the Stroke of Midnight by Jim Steranko won the 1969 Alley Award for Best Feature Story. However, creating it nearly destroyed his entire relationship with Marvel. He and Stan Lee clashed hard over the cover art, the panel design, the dialogue, and even the title. Jim wanted it to be a direct homage to Lovecraft and wanted to go with the lurking fear at Shadow House, but Lee wanted something punchier. Things got so heated that Steranko actually quit freelancing for Marvel for a while just to cool off. Automation's gonna get your job. Issue 2. Even the title of this story is scary, especially in today's context when machines are actually taking jobs away from working men, and it's no longer just a warning given by Digger at the beginning. We meet Carson, who works in a mine and is threatened to drill faster or the employer will replace him with a machine and make him jobless. The supervisor, Jake Wyatt, makes it very clear that all the workers have to be strong enough to fight a war against automation, and if they get scared, the only door open to them is that of the unemployment office. Wyatt instills this fear of automation in his workers, even outside the mines, where he picks fights just to show how powerful he is. Still, one day, his worst fear comes true, and the employer actually sends a robot to the mining facility in West Virginia. Naturally, he loses his mind and starts tampering with its buttons and wires to prove who the real boss is. Unfortunately, the robot malfunctions, causing a cave-in and trapping Wyatt under the rubble. And guess what? The robot was meant to rescue workers in such accidents, and now Wyatt is stuck there until he can fix it. Wyatt may have won the fight against technology, but in doing so, he pays the highest price, his life. 1 Hungers. At the start of this tale, Digger gives us a heads up about this creature named This One, who was born a little different. Naturally, people wanted to kill it and decorate their caves with its head. However, it isn't easy to find This One because its lair is protected by a thunderous force that drives people crazy if they stay inside for too long. Time passes and people fail to slay This One, whose hunger is gone as it has found a new source of food. Wonder what that could be, huh? Once it senses living prey, it all comes back. It's an adventurous couple, Danny and Sheila, who stumble upon This One. At last, real food. This one has waited so long, feels so empty. Out comes a grotesque yellowish mass of writhing flesh that has not fed properly since the Great Cavern. You wouldn't believe what happens next. The moment This One touches the girl with a tentacle-like limb, it begins to glow and grow. But wait, is touch responsible? Oh no, it's actually sound. The moment one of them speaks, This One gets larger. No, it doesn't feed on flesh, it feeds on people's screams. Denny starts playing his guitar to keep This One distracted, while Sheila somehow manages to free her foot that had gotten stuck. And right when they start running, This One, now like a ball of fire, follows them, saying, 1 Hungers. Somehow, they hold back their shrieks while This One burns its way through the forest, begging for a single loud noise as it slowly loses energy and grows smaller. The story ends with the last remaining piece of This One coming close to Sheila's face, leaving readers wondering whether she screamed or not, because one sound and This One would be back again. This is officially my go-to story to shut kids up when they won't stop yelling at Target. Not proud, but it works. The Terrible Old Man, Issue 3. This is by far one of the creepiest stories I've ever come across in this comic. And here, Tower of Shadows actually adapts a story by H.P. Lovecraft himself. Originally published in 1921, The Terrible Old Man is one of Lovecraft's early horror tales, and trust us, it still hits just as hard here. We follow a rich, feeble old man living in an ancient house by the sea in Kingsport, and things get unsettling really fast. Of course, a wealthy hermit like him is easy prey for robbers like Angelo Ricci, Manuel Silva, and Joe Kazanik. However, they're not exactly eager to pull off this theft, given the strange tales surrounding him. He was once the captain of a clipper ship, but he's now so old and mysterious that no one even remembers his true age or name. All information about him comes from curious neighbors next door who once peeked inside and found the old man playing with strange bottles, each with a piece of lead inside, and even talking to them. Loneliness much? Oh no. Sorcery. We'll get to the reveal soon, but one of the bottles begins to glow, and from that moment on, people understand that it's best to keep their distance from whatever this creepy dude is doing. When Manuel and Angelo go in to rob him, Joe waits outside and hears noises after 20 minutes. He assumes they've killed the old man and are about to return with treasure, but soon the oaken door creaks open and there he is in front of the car. This frail old man with his knotted cane, smiling hideously. Joe notices his eyes, which are yellow, and the next thing we know, 3 bodies wash up on the shores of Kingsport, their eyes carrying a strange pallid glow. You get the drift, right? The man was talking to the bottles and calling them names like Spanish Jack and Long Time, because those were actually the souls of people the old man had hunted down and stored. The truth is, this ancient man possesses supernatural powers and steals the souls of his victims, keeping them trapped in bottles, including those who dare to try to rob him. Midnight in the Wax Museum, Issue 3. In the late 60s and early 70s, there was a considerable explosion of alien stories. UFO sightings, extraterrestrial encounters, and all kinds of paranormal claims were suddenly everywhere. It was a time when people were genuinely fascinated by the idea of life beyond Earth, and UFOlogy became more popular than ever. Obviously, writer Gary Friedrich jumped on the trend and brought us this story about the editor of a high school newspaper, Ryan Carter. Ryan is out of topics to cover, and even the baseball match has been called off. Frustrated, he believes he has to run the next issue with a blank front page if something life-changing doesn't happen within the next 20 minutes. Lucky for him, it doesn't even take 20 seconds for that to occur. An old house with Wax Museum written on its door suddenly appears in a place that was empty moments ago. At first, Ryan thinks he's hallucinating, but there's a crowd starting to form. Desperate for a scoop, Ryan goes along with the others, all trying to make sense of what just happened. Suddenly, an angry caretaker steps out and warns everyone to stay out of the house and not to meddle in the business of the occupants. He makes it very clear, if you dare disturb us, the consequences will be horrible. Yet, Ryan is all too eager to break the story of the century and manages to get inside through the basement window. I'm sure everything's going to work out just fine for him, right? Little does the headline hunter realize that the answer to all his curiosity is waiting at the top of the stairs. Though he's taken aback by the frightening faces, he consoles himself by saying that these are nothing but wax dummies, and the boy couldn't have been more wrong. In no time, the wax replicas of some of the world's most dangerous figures, like Jack the Ripper, are no longer statues. They're living, breathing creatures, and Ryan realizes what they are: aliens. And this is where it gets a bit funny. The aliens try to figure out whether their Earthling is hostile or not, but Ryan runs for his life, making the otherworldly beings conclude Earthmen are still far too primitive, they still fear anything they cannot understand. And with that, they prepare to leave Earth, and by the time Ryan returns with the police and a crowd, they watch the Wax Museum shrivel up and transform into a spacecraft that disappears with a whoosh. I mean, talk about front-page stories, right? The Moving Finger Rides, Issue 3. Ethel and Harry Swan are stuck in an unhappy, dysfunctional marriage because the man of the house could never really become the man of the house. Harry is portrayed as a loser who spends every day waiting for his $1 million ship to come in. And Ethel, she leaves no stone unturned to make her husband's life miserable. She even tells him he has no education and has been stuck in a dead-end job for years. Frustrated, Harry goes for a walk and comes across a bookstore. He walks in, hoping to prove to Ethel just how educated he is, and after scanning through endless shelves, he finally finds the right book, one about his own life. That's right, the man finds a book titled The Life and Times of Harry Swan, an autobiography. To his surprise, everything in it is true, even the name of his third-grade teacher. He becomes obsessed and soon discovers a way to make a fortune. The book says that Harry wins a huge amount of money by betting on a horse race, and the man actually goes and places the bet, and he wins. Harry becomes rich overnight and fulfills all of his dreams. Unfortunately, Ethel dies in a car accident, but Harry, though appearing as a grieving husband, is secretly relieved. He keeps reading the book frantically, but suddenly the pages go blank. Eager to know what happens next, he steps out of his car and dies. Yup, Harry dies in a construction site accident, and a worker named Charlie Jenkins picks up the book, which now reads The Life and Times of Charlie Jenkins. That's actually just so upsetting. One Little Indian, Issue 4. This story follows two friends, or frenemies to be more precise, Michael Royal and Peter Lester. Lester helps Mike when he's broke, but now, this very man decides to bankrupt him. We see them in a restaurant where Mike is forcing Lester to sign a contract that will destroy his business. Mike is an absolute douchebag who makes fun of Lola and even tells Peter that at least he's getting robbed by a friend. Meanwhile, a young woman in a red bandana passes by and says, "You're heartless, Mike." It's soon revealed that she's a fortune teller who asks them if they would like to know their future. Mike, however, laughs at her, saying his future is going to be extremely bright, hinting at the disaster Lester will face. This clearly offends the woman, Lola, who then tells them some surprising truths. For starters, she guesses his sun sign correctly, and when Mike pushes her further, she claims that she can read death on his palms. Now, I've read enough horror stories to know that a creepy fortune teller showing up is a telltale sign that something's about to go horribly wrong, but it seems like Mike never got that memo. He laughs at Lola, but she goes on to say that he'll die in the presence of an Indian. The next day, Mike comes across a cigar shop with a Native American inside, and though he tries to brush it off as a coincidence, a solid block of granite falls near him. The man who saves him is a Native American, and now Mike begins to spiral. He goes back to his office only to find his secretary in a gypsy costume. Mike starts to panic and runs out, trying to convince himself that the curse isn't real, but the next moment, he gets into the elevator of the rooftop restaurant where Lola works, and an old man asks him to hold the ashes of his father, a Native American ambassador. And then it happens. A short circuit, snapped cables, and the lift plunges downward. All that's left is Mike's deafening screams. The Demon That Devoured Hollywood, Issue 5. Frankly, guys, this story had us wondering about the great secret behind the almost eternal youth of heartthrobs like Brad Pitt and Hugh Grant. Just kidding, just kidding. We know that God actually prefers celebrities. Jason Rowland, however, is not one of God's favorite people. In this story, he's one of Hollywood's biggest horror stars, charging $1 million per movie. And when a curious reporter asks about the secret behind his fantastic makeup, he replies that it's his little trade secret. Anyways, Jason is particularly famous for playing monsters in creature features, but apparently he's now giving that up to become a matinee idol. Oh, and by the way, the name Jason feels a little too fitting here, if you know what I mean. Soon, we see a short, bald man who threatens Rowland to pay his debt and claims he's the one who made him a star. Turns out, it's his makeup that made Jason the greatest monster in Tinseltown after Lon Chaney, and though Rowland admits it to himself, he now wants to get rid of him. On the final day of shooting as a ghoul, Rowland finally asks who his makeup man truly is and how his nimble fingers turned him into such a big shot. The man calmly says that he has already answered that question, but Rowland doesn't believe him. I mean, I get it. Why would Rowland believe that his makeup artist is an emissary of the devil, right? Well, that's exactly what he is. Rowland recalls that they had shaken hands on a deal that in return for his stardom, he would give the artist one thing whenever he asked for it, though it was never specified what that would be. And finally, the man reveals it. Only your soul. Rowland still doesn't believe him, and in his scary monster makeup starts beating the man who tries to tell him that the master will get his soul one way or another. Rowland sends him packing and finishes his last day of shooting when he learns that there are rumors floating around that he doesn't do his own makeup, something that could damage his reputation terribly. Refuting all gossip, Rowland went back to his dressing room to get off the makeup, only to realize it won't come off. We're sure this wasn't funny for Rowland, but somehow it reminded me of Ross trying to take off his leather pants. The end is chilling though, because the devil has turned him into one of the monsters he was playing his entire life, and indeed, he got his soul. Time Out, Issue 5. This series gives us a whole lot of bickering couples, not gonna lie. In Time Out, Rick and Diane are heading toward her Uncle Jameson's mansion for a seance because Jameson would have cut them out of the will if they didn't show up that night. Traveling in harsh, stormy weather makes them utterly cranky, and the two bicker the whole way. You'd think things would get better when they finally reach a lodge to wait out the storm, but it only gets worse. The moment Diane steps inside, she feels something's off. It isn't the house she's known for 10 years. Soon, things start going awry. First, the door slams shut, and they assume it's the wind. Thankfully, unlike Marie and Lou, they find candles soon enough and move through the place, which Rick rightly describes as resembling a tomb. For the big reveal, they come across a circle with all kinds of eerie objects scattered about, like a globe and a skull, clearly set up for some kind of ritual. Their confusion is broken by a menacing laugh, which knocks some sense into them and urges them to leave. If only it were that easy. Rick tries his best to open the door, now jammed, and when they reach the windows, they find iron bars. They're trapped inside what feels like a full-blown horror house, and things quickly get out of hand. They find a mirror where Rick has no reflection, and an axe from an armored mannequin nearly swings down on Diane. Somehow, they stick together and survive the night, and surprisingly, the chaos ends at dawn when the door finally opens. Their car is gone, and Diane finds her uncle's gardener, Tom, only to learn that he had died 7 years ago this very day, and the papers reported that his niece and her husband went missing that same night. That means that one night took 7 years of their lives. But Diane realizes the ultimate truth. Her uncle may not have left them a great fortune, but he left them something far greater. That one night brought them back together and helped them rediscover their love for each other. But one question remains. How will the couple now navigate life when they've probably been declared dead. Well, at least now they have each other. Man in the Rat Hole, Issue 6. I want to say two things before I begin this story. One, this could be James Bond's worst nightmare, and two, this feels like a wild shrinking man nightmare dropped into a spy story. So we start with this spy who can shrink into a tiny, almost invisible human with the help of a pill. Of course, this gives him a huge advantage when it comes to stealing confidential information, because even the world's greatest security systems can't detect something so small, something that can literally see through a spot of phosphorescent material and climb electrical wires. And the way to return to his original size is simple. Just take another pill. He uses the pills interchangeably to vary his size and successfully steals documents, gathering intel on an explosive that could destroy entire nations. Excited to use it as leverage and blackmail countries into paying him, the man starts to run, but comes across one small obstacle. Well, maybe not so small for him in his shrunken state, because he comes across a rat. In that moment, the rat looks like a huge monster that he has to fight. He does manage to topple it and throw it aside, but guess what? The rat claws away his pill case. Now, the greedy spy's options and time are both running out. Either he calls for help and gets caught, or he stays a tiny human trapped in a rat hole for the rest of his life, because if he tries to retrieve the pills, the rat can and will maul him to death. The tale ends with a simple, "What can I do?" but the horror crawls under your skin and never really leaves. Oh, and if you feel like you've heard this story somewhere else before, you're not wrong. This one actually wasn't born in Tower of Shadows at all. It was reprinted there after first appearing as Worm Man in Strange Tales number 78. The Scream from Beyond, Issue 6. Gene Colan himself appears as the host here, opening the story with a wink about tape recordings. The story itself was written by Steve Skeets, with Colan on pencils and Dan Adkins on inks, and the team really sells the creepy build-up. It begins with a car speeding down a country road, and we then see a little man stepping out of the car who, for some wicked reason, turns around a one-way signboard on the road and then puts up his own homemade sign on the other end. As it turns out, he's waiting to record the sounds of real car crashes and takes out his tape recorder, saying, "No fake sound effects for me." He sets it up and hides behind a tree, waiting for two cars to arrive at the same time. Somehow, fate delivers. The vehicles crash violently, but the drivers manage to get out with only a few bruises. We learn that this man is named Matthew Melanius, who returns to the basement of his dilapidated home and replays the recording, cheering at the sounds of the crash. Soon after, he hears another booming sound and wonders where it came from. It turns out a nearby gas station has exploded, and this real sound-hungry man rushes out with his recorder, capturing the catastrophe and realizing he no longer has to wait for disasters, he can create his own. Right before the owners of the record company arrive, he hears a strange sound but ignores it. Everything goes well when he plays his recordings for them, and he even gets a new assignment to recreate the sound of a train derailment. Of course, the sadistic man takes the job and goes to a train track the next day. Just as he begins to tamper with the rails, he hears that same strange noise again, except this time, the recorder isn't even on. Before Matthew can figure it out, he sees it, a train coming straight at him, full speed. He has nowhere to run, and the recorder captures the most real sound effect of all, the roar of the oncoming train mixed with his own high-pitched scream. Somehow, he achieves the greatest recording of his life, and it costs him everything. The Scream of Things, Issue 7. I know, the name of this one is uncannily similar to the last story we mentioned, but dude, this one's a total nightmare. And personally, we love the setting. Imagine a quiet rural English town called Wollaston Hedge, where a professor from Oxford, Professor Emery, rents a room at a local inn. A friendly discussion with the manager reveals that he's been in America studying superstition and now intends to continue his work in England, starting with the Wollaston Curse. So, what is this curse? It begins with a nobleman, George Wollaston, who built a manor and had quite a reputation. However, trouble begins with his grandson, referred to as Black John. Apparently, this man has the devil's temper and gets entangled in black magic and sorcery. As a result, he turns against the people who are believed to have real magic in their blood, the gypsies, and burns down their camp. An old Romani woman then curses John, after which the entire Wollaston family disappears. Tales have it that anyone foolish enough to stay in the Wollaston house after nightfall disappears as well. Enter horror logic, because the professor completely ignores the warning and even gets a woman, Ginny Sutton, to accompany him on this little escapade. But Sutton is no ordinary woman. She herself mentions that she has some gypsy blood running in her veins, and true to that, her moods shift quickly and she takes what she wants. Quick disclaimer, Ginny's enthusiasm is a facade. Emery is fascinated by the eerie atmosphere of the house as soon as they arrive, while Ginny is already thinking about pushing him down the stairs to kill him and take his money. But suddenly, the inside of the house changes. Everything turns into a silvery gray mist, and Ginny starts hearing a strange noise. She loses control and begins screaming, "I don't have their cursed blood. I'm not a Wollaston. I am a gypsy." However, within moments, she begins to dissolve and ghostly entities appear, welcoming a new member. A 300-year-old curse, which states that anyone who brings violence into the Wollaston house will be destroyed, finally claims another victim, even in the 20th century. Yeah, I'm going to take curses a little more seriously from now on. Behold, I am the Master of Time, issue 8. Yep, we have a comic messing with time once again, with an antique dealer working on a time machine. Basically, he's running out of ancient items to sell, so he decides to use black magic to engineer an occult time machine, go back in time, and collect real pieces to sell. And of course, he ends up in 18th century France, hoping to become the greatest antique dealer of all time. But wait, how does he collect these pieces? Well, simple. He steals them, thinking nobody will be able to punish him once he pulls a Back to the Future. He dodges the angry villagers chasing him and even retorts, "If you peasants want your antiques, come to the 20th century," before jumping into his time machine. He believes it to be some impenetrable fortress, but whoops, the lever isn't functioning. And he's trapped. He's stuck inside this box-like machine that won't take him back to the present, and he can't step out either because if he does, the peasants will chop him up. So, is this some kind of divine punishment? Oh no, just the consequences of a reckless, stupid act by a greedy man. The mechanism he used for the time machine is actually perfect, with completely insulated electric wires, but hey genius, where exactly is he getting electricity in the 18th century? The story ends with him accepting his destiny, and sows the idea of what will happen when he finally steps outside, and honestly, just thinking about it gives me the ick. I dared to enter the haunted room. Issue 9. We'll never understand how someone gathers enough guts to enter a place that has been labeled haunted. I mean, why? Why test fate? But we're reading a horror comic, so against all logic, a scientist, Mr. Smith, rents a house, Wormwood House, which is allegedly haunted by poltergeists. The thing is, this man doesn't care about any of that. All he wants is a peaceful place to work on his nuclear bomb. Turns out, he's been working on this devastating weapon for 2 years and intends to use it to become the ruler of the world. Oh, and he's finally completed it. Mr. Smith takes control of the house, paying no heed to the real estate agent, who once again warns him to avoid the forbidden room upstairs. Legend has it that behind that door are spirits who have devoured any mortal who entered, and for 100 years no one has dared to open it. It's given major Red Room vibes from The Haunting of Hill House, not gonna lie. But for Mr. Smith, this is the perfect place to hide his bomb, and of course he opens the door. He locks the weapon inside, laughing at old superstitions, then heads to New York to meet members of the United Nations and present the blueprint of his grand plan. Then comes the biggest twist of his life. This is Mr. Smith's first time in New York, and he goes up to people asking for directions, but no one seems to see or hear him. Soon, he grows frantic and starts screaming, "Look at me! Notice me! Answer me!" Yet, he gets no response. It's only then that Mr. Smith realizes what the room has done to him. It's turned him into a ghost, invisible and incomprehensible to human senses. He's been reduced from an overambitious, power-hungry scientist to someone who can never share his deadly creation. Sadly though, guys, that's all we got for you today. Revisiting these stories really took us back to the days when all you needed were some sketchy drawings and dialogue bubbles to feel the horror all around you. I know how nostalgic you guys can be, and trust me, I'm the same way, so I really want to dig through my attic and see if I can find some of these old comics, but after these stories, I think I'm going to hold off for now. Don't forget to let us know your favorite story from the collection in the comments down below, and if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so we know to make more stuff like it in the future. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.